Morning government class. It is Tuesday, April 7th. Not going to have a very long lecture video today because you really need to be finishing up, if you haven't already, the assignment from yesterday, reading about the stimulus bill and listening to yesterday's lecture concerning what all is in the stimulus bill, the direct cash payments, loan forbearance, and things like that. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about just kind of step back a little bit and talk more about what's really kind of happening with the crisis in government in general. And this isn't just about the U.S. There's a real crisis in governments around the world, a lot of different places. In the United Kingdom, for example, in Great Britain, their prime minister was put into, he was actually admitted to the hospital last week for coronavirus symptoms. He announced maybe 2 weeks ago, or not quite 2 weeks ago, that he had tested positive for COVID-19, and he was, resting at home and working on taking care of himself at home. But then he was admitted to the hospital. I think it was late last week or over the weekend. And then yesterday was put into the intensive care unit, which is a sign that he's very, very sick. This is Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of Great Britain. That could, that's very troubling. Anytime the leader of a country is deathly ill and could need serious life-supporting measures, then you have to wonder, okay, who's next in line, who's in control of the government. And currently in Great Britain, it's a guy named Dominic Raab, who's another member of the government, but he's not the prime minister, but he's been deputized to kind of more or less run the government in Boris Johnson's absence. He doesn't have all the powers that Boris Johnson has as prime minister, but he's able to kind of keep things going while Prime Minister Johnson is sick. Obviously wish the Prime Minister well, but that's one crisis that's facing a lot of governments around the world now, as the virus doesn't discriminate between leaders and not leaders, or rich or poor. Anyone can get this, including national leaders. The other issue concerning government crises that I wanted to bring up has to do with our own president, President Trump. And I wanted to bring you guys' attention. There's an article right now on CNN.com. CNN has been working lately on fact-checking the president. The president is doing press conferences every day concerning COVID-19, concerning the coronavirus. And there's an article on CNN right now titled "Fact Check: Trump Baselessly Disputes HHS," which is Health and Human Services, Inspector General report, repeats several other false claims at Monday's coronavirus briefing. Basically, that's a wordy kind of journalistic speak way of saying that the president's not telling the truth. The article says, sorry, you can probably hear my dog in the background being silly. President Donald Trump made yet another series of false and misleading statements at his Monday coronavirus briefing, during which he repeatedly criticized reporters and frequently departed from his prepared text. Trump repeated false claims about coronavirus testing and about the Obama administration's response to the H1N1 pandemic, baselessly dismissed a new report about hospital shortages of critical supplies, and played down early problems with a new small business lending program. He also repeated some of his old false claims about trade with China. In particular, I'm just going to read one about one of these. So, Health and Human Services is a department within the federal government that is tasked largely with the medical response to the coronavirus. At Monday's briefing, Fox News correspondent Kristen Fisher asked the president about a recently released report from the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General, which details challenges facing hospitals in responding to the coronavirus pandemic, including shortages of supplies and equipment, as well as prolonged wait times to get testing results. In response, Trump said, "It's just wrong. Did I hear the word Inspector General? Really? It's wrong." When pushed on the fact that the report was released by his own administration, Trump suggested the findings were politically motivated, asking, well, where did he come from, the Inspector General? What's his name? Trump later added, so give me the name of the Inspector General. Could politics be entered into that? Okay, and CNN does a fact check on all that, says there's no evidence to suggest anything about the report is wrong or that it was somehow politically motivated. The report was independently launched by the HHS Office of the Inspector General and based on interviews conducted between March 23rd and 27th with administrators at more than 300 hospitals across 46 states, Puerto Rico, and Washington, D.C. The report found hospitals face testing shortages and longer than usual wait times for coronavirus test results. So here's a question that I want you to be thinking about. I'm not going to ask you to respond now, but I want you to be thinking about this as another question in advance of our Zoom meeting on Friday. What does it do to a government's ability to govern if a leader is not necessarily trusted widely to be truthful? It's kind of become an old saw in American politics, really politics around the world, that all politicians lie. And that is true to an extent. The point has been made several times that people like being lied to by their leaders because they don't always want to hear the hard facts. But it seems like there's a difference between the way politicians tell untruths, lies, in order to shield people, perhaps from some particularly bitter truths that won't get them elected. Like, I believe it was Walter Mondale in the 1984 presidential campaign against President Reagan, came right out and said, I'm not going to lie to you, I'll raise your taxes. I'm going to raise your taxes, which was truthful. Okay, he was right about that. The taxes needed to be raised. The government was not bringing in enough money. But in an election season, for a politician to say, I'm going to raise your taxes if you elect me, it's, not good politics. And Walter Mondale lost in no small part because he told that truth. So yes, politicians do tend to be untruthful. But there seems to be a difference in kind and in quantity with this president, with President Trump. And I want you to think about and be ready to talk a little bit about on Friday whether the state of things now is affecting your belief in our government, your ability to feel like the government is being level with you about what's going on right now. If you were to listen to a press conference with President Trump, would you feel as if the information that you were getting was trustworthy? And if not, what do you think the ramifications are of that for the ability of a government to function and to govern the people of a given nation? Okay, so go ahead, make sure that you've read through that article that I linked to in the assignment sheet on the school website about the coronavirus stimulus bill, which is now the stimulus law, of course. And I'll be back tomorrow with a new spin on how governments are able to affect the economy. All right, talk to you guys later.